Hi, good morning. First of all, quick technology check-in here from my side. So warm welcome. Also like saying hello. Welcome to Hamburg City, the city where the summer never ends or never starts. Depends on how your experiences are here right now. So I'm Björn Minkmar, CPO at Rasa Technologies. I joined quite recently in September, just for context. So I try my best to give you answers on the capabilities of Rasa, but also the complexity that we basically gained insight over the course of many, many years working with large enterprise customers. A little bit about my background. I bring a lot of experience in product management, strategy, and developing platforms and products for B2B enterprise customers. I've built basically platforms that scale from 0 to 1, millions of users, large volumes, entering markets, dominating markets. I've been at Xing, so if you're like from German-speaking areas, then probably you know that. After that, built like the biggest B2B marketplace in Europe. And now, then Phrase, localization platform. Now at Rasa, completely focusing on conversational AI. So, in case you did not get the chance to meet us at the booth, happy to meet you there after the talk. Stop, say hi to my colleagues. A bit about Rasa, we're a conversational AI platform. So what that means, like we're basically helping customers, especially large enterprise customers, building an agentic experience that actually is accurate, it's super fast, and it's something you are actually in control of. Because as we are going to explore throughout the journey of my presentation, there's a lot of complexity. There's a lot of nuances to be aware of, to look into, to consider if you set yourself the goal to truly create a natural and useful conversational AI experience for the users. So let's have a look at our vision. Why am I bringing this up? Because I think it gives you quite a good understanding of what Rasa stands for and what's possible with the technology that we provide. So we're clearly a technology provider. And the vision that we set ourselves is to empower organizations to create AI agents that integrate into every customer interaction into one ongoing conversation. And the focus really here is about the aspect of one ongoing conversation. Yeah? As you may know, customers interacting with your call centers, there's like different touch points, different entry points into the conversation. What we are building and what we are enabling with our technology is to actually create a multimodal, seamless experience and also a natural one, right? It's like making it get as close as possible to a human-like experience with high resolution rates and intent detections. So one ongoing conversation that obviously is at the heart of everything we do, and most likely is also at the heart of everything that you do, because you probably care about your customers. That's why you're working in a contact center environment. And the goal here today is to explore now a little bit more in detail of where this complexity sits and how Rasa can help you overcome it. But first of all, let's have a look at the market. So as you might see, like pretty big adoption wave in AI. And I think we can clearly say we're facing a super cycle of AI revolution. That's like something, a new technology wave that we are experiencing. We're right in the middle of it. Yeah? And I think we try to compare it. It's like almost like similar to the impact that the internet had on technology, on commerce, on user experiences. Something even more dramatic from our experience and perspective clearly is the power of AI. So the slides I'm bringing up here, yeah, actually as you see like some small little nice hockey stick curves that you're seeing here. But talking to the numbers, what is this all about? These are detailed insights from a McKinsey survey over the course of a couple of years. And it's interesting to explore the similar and simple question that McKinsey actually brought up with these customers was, how many functions are already taking advantage of AI? And as you see, it's basically structured in various buckets. It's just like one function, two function, more function. The details don't matter that much. I think the overall picture and impression and tendency and trend is more relevant, because what we see that from 24 up until today, numbers started to explode. That means like 2 functions, 3 functions, 4 functions, saw a massive increase in AI adoption, right? So in essence, what's the story here? You can see AI finds its way into almost all the function across an organization, which by itself is a great thing. And probably for you working in contact center, call center, some kind of a service environment, that's probably a similar question, right? In the aspect of digitalization and now AI being like the next wave to follow up, how can you benefit from it? How can you leverage the technologies to increase value for your organization? But the interesting part is also to point out is probably like point solutions, right? A very narrowed understanding of the use cases and how you're building and developing with it. What we're now seeing is that this is now basically taking almost like an initiative level across the organization. And why is it so important? Another slide showing some insights with an aspect and a focus on revenue gains. So as you see, the slides basically depicts how revenue impact moved and improved from first half of 24 and then second half of 24. And if you read through it, obviously, there's different dimensions, different departments like strategy, there's marketing, software engineering. We're pointing out here service operations. And the insights gained, again, by McKinsey throughout the surveys, it clearly shows there's a significant revenue impact also for operationals. 63% of revenue gains, 1 digit for almost like 20% already in the 2-digit level. So this is quite impressive. So there clearly is a lot of impact that AI generates for these departments. But above all of that, actually, you need to understand that when taking a look and how closer it is when it comes to operations, it's something now we wanted to shift the focus to, which is voice. And there's like a tendency that we observed in the market was that, and I don't know if you can actually relate to this, or it would be interesting to hear your point of view, but clearly what we're seeing is the touch points is that in the past, obviously, customers, and probably still do, love to pick up the phone, right? Call you up, try to resolve the issues that they have. And yet there's a tendency to hide away phone numbers and rather shift the traffic towards, let's say, self-service scenarios. Yeah, I think probably FAQs most likely, but then most recently chatbots. Great, does a lot, but it's still not the most satisfying experience from an end user's perspective, right? So the question is, why is it like that? Because there's been like voice solutions in the market for quite some time. And the interesting thing is that we basically also told, and I don't know if you actually get access to the slides, I guess you do, we're linking out the sources so you can read it up yourself. Actually, 80% of the organizations that are using one of the legacy technical solutions towards voice are rather unhappy. And why is that? Because they're simply not satisfying, right? They're quite boring, they're straight, strict. It doesn't like really feel like a natural experience, right? Yet systems are facing, or let's say companies are still facing, the burning pressure of reducing costs. And we're pointing out here numbers, so average cost per, call agent interaction almost like between $8 to $13. So that's why obviously it makes sense to try to hide the phone number and push somewhere else. Yet we believe that doesn't have to be the case. So the answer to this is then, how can you solve it actually? How can you provide a much, much better experience to the end user, right? And actually allow them to pick up the phone and call in and choose the most convenient way of interacting with your organization. This is where basically now LLMs are entering the stage, clearly, right? They come with a strong promise of fluency, being able to detect intentions and act accordingly, always providing like a proper answer. And we love to frame it as like the agentic black box. Because typically what you have, if you're using LLM as a technology, it is a black box, right? You don't know how it's actually deciding under the hood. So you're trying your best, making use of that technology, leveraging it to your own benefits. So if you're taking this now, simple examples depicted here, but if you understand that if you're using LLMs, you actually don't know if the way the LLM is interacting is accurate, if it's actually doing what you want it to do. And the reason is, and the core reason to be understood, and some of you may know it, but LLMs are designed to always give an answer. always. That's the nature of an LLM, right? The difficult task here is to understand, is the answer given by the LLM actually correct or is it wrong? Which is like coined by the term of hallucination. So does the LLM actually just make up something? And if you take a closer look, and my colleagues were so friendly to depict like a real life or real world example of a chatbot experience, right? A user reaching out with like a clear intent and the chatbot then reacting to it, almost like feeling, yeah, great. It's creating a fluent experience. It's actually creating something that is close to a natural experience, but the intent detection and the way it's handling it is absolutely incorrect, right? So it's actually now recommending an invalid plan. It's skipping the concept, right? It's not asking for consent. It just moves along. And this is something we've seen, and this is like something customers have experienced leveraging LLMs or trying to leverage LLMs themselves. So now the question is, how to deal with it, and what is the consequence and insights and learning for you? I think what we're pointing out at Rasa, and we believe is like the key aspects to be understood in context of conversational AI, that fluency is not to be understood and similar to accuracy, right? So creating a fluent experience with the help of an LLM is something you can probably ramp up quite quickly. The real art and challenge is to get to a point where you can ensure an enterprise accuracy. So truly being strong at identifying the intent of the person dialing in, understanding the next actions that need to be on, and then basically sending commands to the underlying technology in order to resolve that, and managing really complex use cases and flows. So that's why we basically invested over the course for many years, because we're in the market for almost a decade now, that our technology and our underlying concepts enable especially large enterprise customers to create conversations you can count on. So how does it work, and why does it actually matter? So we're trying to depict the certain accuracy when it comes like certain dimensions to be taken into consideration when developing and building a conversational AI experience. Obviously, and probably that holds true for almost every organization, there's aspects of latency to be considered, right? You want the technology and the experience to be responsive, especially in the context of voice, dialing in, sub-seconds. That's basically the ultimate goal you're trying to achieve. And then the other aspects is costs, right? Investment into technology, investing into teams. All of this adds up over time, especially if you take in consideration the large number of volumes that you're expected to push through the system, getting us to throughput. Because actually what you initially need, all of that, is a technology that is actually capable of managing this, large peaks, large volumes overall. So really talking about millions of calls being handled over the course of the year, or as we heard it like from the previous conversations, like peaks in certain critical situations with customers. So all of this basically are certain aspects of, we call it the dials, that are almost like individual to each enterprise organization, right? So you need to decide yourself if you want to invest and spend more time, capacity, energy into latency improvements, is it cost improvements? Do you care so much more about throughput? All of that, I think, is like really quite individual, and you can customize it to your specific needs. The common denominator, the foundation of everything, though, is accuracy. That remains true no matter what scenario we're facing. Accuracy is the ultimate goal. That is the currency you always have to invest into if you want to ensure a strong end-user experience. So if you take a look at this now, real results, almost then like from our perspective, live in the middle of very strict handling and fluency. So in the past, basically, almost like with an NLP, NLU approach to things, you've seen these like very strict rule-based processes which were able to guarantee and give very, very strong guardrails to the end user experience, making sure everything works in expectations to your business. Yet the outcome is like the experience for the user might be quite boring, right? It might be like quite linear and doesn't feel that natural, especially if there's like a combination of various of various intents in one single conversation. So jumping to the other side of the spectrum, you would have the LLMs, promising, strong fluency experiences, but the way to get there, it still remains guessing. The term we're using here is like prompt and pray. You're prompting your way to success, hoping that whatever you experienced, designed, and tested, basically in a staging environment, will almost be like the same thing when it comes to production. But the question is, what do you do if that system starts to fail in production? Because most likely it will. There's an aspect of hallucination. Therefore, from our perspective, we believe it's really like the golden standard to be achieved is right in the middle. That's the sweet spot. So you want to have like structured automation. Being in control, leveraging the power of LLMs, yet being completely in control of the flows, being able of handling edge cases, being able to basically hand off and route through given the certain situations and conditions that we're in. And all of this obviously not just like for one agent experience, but also like for a multi-agent experiences here across the board. So what we're seeing here basically now is the approach of when it comes to LLMs, taking a deep dive on that technology. I think most organizations probably make use and leverage ChatGPT, maybe Anthropic, maybe different other vendors, but they typically stick to the generic models and try to get benefits out of this. And what we've seen at Rasa and what we managed to apply and roll out to the market is an investment in fine-tuning on smaller models. So this is where it becomes truly interesting, because you're actually winning on two aspects when applying smaller models that are living and residing in your own technical environment. So the first thing to be pointed out, you are actually getting a much, much higher level of accuracy. The models are precise, they're smaller, they're fine-tuned to your domains, to your expectations, and this is leading to 5x and more levels of improvements of latency, because the models are small, they're running in your environment, so the latency, obviously, there's no need for third-party calls outside of your environment. You stay within, basically, your domains and your technical infrastructure, making it fast. And then there's an aspect of the costs when it comes to the models, right? So we see like a cost reduction of 80% with like key customers that we're working from, enterprise telcos, taking advantage of these. Right. So again, now the question of, how does it apply? Real-world examples, talking to that. I'm pointing and picking one of the examples that we managed to work on here with a large-scale enterprise customer from telco, from Europe. We're basically serving customers and enterprises across Europe. They have more than 50 million conversations annually. So this is like really, truly a large enterprise scenario that we're talking about. And we managed to basically get together with a team on site. And what we're seeing here is a breakdown of a 6-year project that this company has been building with in-house teams and capabilities over the course of 6 years, focusing on NLP, NLU technologies, 40 people working on this, 6 years. Using Rasa technology, it actually enabled them to transition the experience into the technology of Rasa within 12 weeks of time. So that's quite impressive and shows like what the technology is capable of, taking like a very mature user experience and bringing it over to a new technology. The reason they did it, obviously, being able to manage and maintain, but clearly gaining aspects and winning on certain levels that are critical to them. And first and foremost is like the resolution rate. How many of the incoming calls? Can we improve the quality of anything that users are interacting with? And we're talking about a chat and voice experience in this case. And we see like a resolution rate improvement tripling, right? So it's like 3x compared to the previous experience. Clearly shows that the level of accuracy you can gain with the technology we provide is significant. And operational costs were lowered by 50%. So we're cutting down on cost tremendously, making it faster, making it more accurate. And customer satisfaction went up. 2.5 experiences basically exploded also here and then. I mentioned already the team spending 6 years. working in that, transitioning over in 12 weeks of time, significant impact, and they're now managing 50 plus million conversations annually. Yeah, and the bot team size also got reduced over time. So that being said, okay, so it's really about actually having that and applying this is really about making your brands worth calling again. So what I basically initially pointed out in my presentation here was, if you apply the right technology, have a good enough understanding of where the pitfalls are and the challenges are when applying especially voice experiences, you can actually deliver on a very promising natural and useful conversational experience. And if you want to give it a try, what does it feel like and what kind of an experience you can actually build with Rasa, feel free to pick up your phones, make a screenshot, scan the QR code, or come talk to us at the booth. We're right behind this stand and the stage. What you're seeing here on screen right now is a new product release we just shipped a couple of weeks ago. It's called Hello Rasa. You can consider this to be like a playground that enables you to actually interact with the Rasa technology, demonstrating the capabilities. And we believe it's so easy to use that anybody with a decent, let's say, technical understanding can make use of building bots. And I can tell you it's a fun exercise. I can only encourage you, log in, get there, do it, or come to our booth and experience it yourself, right? So you get like quite close to experiencing what kind of an agent experience you can actually deliver on. And you can also customize it to your own needs. You can brand it to your own specific requirements. All of that's being possible, right? And if there's more you're interested in, more we can talk about, then feel free again to come or scan the QR code and talk to our sales team. Thank you so much for your attention. Hey. Hey, Leo.
So, hey, Björn. We do actually have some questions. Thank you first and foremost for this really interesting take and for making things a bit more international today. So the question that we received is, there's so many AI agents out there. What precisely makes Rasa so different? Why Rasa? What is the one thing that sets you really apart?
Yeah, okay, interesting, thanks. I think it's a great question. I also was like, maybe for context, was wandering around here, you know, all the different vendors, the different booths, and it's quite hard to basically distinguish where the benefits are and the value propositions are. For us, clearly, we're built for scale, right? This is like large volumes, truly enterprise-grade experiences, especially for very technical teams. Why is that? We're basically at the forefront of innovation, getting the most out of the technology, and it has an aspect of customization. I think a lot of the products or offerings in the market almost like off the shelf, but what you actually want to have is like an ability to customize to your own specific needs. Every customer, every enterprise customer you're talking to has a very different tech stack. They have different expectations on the user experience, of the level of detail, on the level of quality and accuracy. So you really want to have like a technology that's capable of catering to all these very specific needs.
Okay, great, interesting. And the other question we received is, if we're talking brand voice, most people will first and foremost think of marketing actually, and not of customer service, even though of course our brand voice carries through into the customer service, and you even had like brand voice calling on your slide, quite aptly. So do we actually need to collaborate with marketing and CX in order to set up this brand voice, to set up Rasa? Is marketing involved there as well? Because that's usually a collaboration we don't see happen a lot.
I would clearly argue with a yes, strong yes from my side. From a customer's end user experience, it's simply a holistic experience that you want to have. And no matter the touch point, no matter where you're interacting, I think it's an aspect of brands clearly communicated. Be it like reading up on documentations, interacting with a chatbot, talking to a voice agent, or talking to a human being. So.
Okay, great. And for the voice agents in particular, of course, there's like those standard voices that we know. Is there a way to make them sound a bit less robotic, a bit more human, or is that actually something that you found your customers, like your customers and their customers, do not particularly care about because they know it's an AI agent anyway?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it actually resonates with my own personal experience, dialing in on an experience like different voice agents and different vendors that I'm basically regularly interacting with or being a customer of. And I think one aspect clearly is the naturalness,
Yeah.
right, of a voice experience. That clearly depends on the models that you're choosing. There's a broad spectrum of vendors to pick from. I think we can most likely experience and see like a tremendous improvement. Some of them are really strong. Some still feel like a little bit robotic. Yeah, but I think that's clearly the choice. It's really just an aspect of what's the kind of experience you're aiming for. Most likely get as close as possible to human-like experiences, and then it's a decision on the model.
Okay. And following up from that, have there been experiences from your customers where their customers calling into the customer service and experiencing this kind of voice, working with the tool, actually have felt less satisfied because maybe they have gotten the answer, but the human interaction was missing? Because that was a big point of debate earlier on when those agents came about. And I think it's still being hotly discussed. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, so to be honest, I don't have any insights. I don't know if my colleagues from the different departments, which you might want to meet then at the booth, can talk to that. But I can say, like, clearly what you need to take into consideration is like being sure and becoming probably better of when to clearly route to a human being, right? For aspects of empathy, I don't know, aspects of escalation. I think we're quite good at that yet, but I can't talk to the details of where the, let's say, the technology is missing out on a convincing experience. That's what we
Okay.
don't have, right?
Very interesting. So the person who sent in that question, please do visit them at the booth. What number was it again?
Help me out. Okay, I cannot hear that.
No, you can find out later. And then also, we do have one last question that I particularly also think is interesting.
Yeah.
What is the vision? Because this is obviously very visionary, very new, but you're trying to build on that. You're trying to eradicate all those flaws that there are in customer service. What's next? Eradicating more flaws, making things more predictable and secure, new features. What is your vision for this?
Now, I think, as I said, like it's almost like pretty much captured in the vision that we have. It's really this ongoing conversation. There's a strong emphasis on context and memory, right? Really understanding the person, knowing the person dialing in, making it a seamless experience, no matter if I dialed in last week, the months before, or last year. Having a context understanding of like, you know, what is the state of the customer dialing in, the user dialing in. So having this kind of information, dealing with this, working with that, and most likely, I think even taking it one step further is like the aspect of once you're routing to a human being for, you know, the next level or next step in the conversational experience is like really taking all of the context and all of the information and passing it to the human agent.
Okay.
I think some vendors, might already provide that. I can't talk to that, but I think that's clearly something we can see in the conversations we're having with customers.
Great. And then the very last question, and you've already kind of slithered into it. This tool is not there to just entirely replace customer service. It is transforming the customer service experience, but it's actually just, as a lot of the AI tools, making our lives as customer service agents easier, and it's not replacing us, it's just helping us.
Yes, clearly. So from my perspective, it's not about replacing humans in this scenario. It's really staying on top of the volumes coming in.
Okay.
Right? And trying to be smart at providing like a first-hand experience, which is very convincing, and being smart in detecting when to clearly route to a human being. Because not for every person dialing in, you need to talk to a human being. Sometimes it's quicker, faster, and obviously also there's the aspect of 24/7 support, not to be missed out on. So.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much. I think this was really insightful. Please give it up for Björn, and don't forget to vote for him for the Masterclass Awards.
Thank you so much.